Today we are going to start making our CD loom project for weaving. Okay, so what you're going to get is a CD case with a CD inside, and you are going to take this out. And if your CD happens to have a name on yours for some reason, I don't know what 7th hour is, but if you happen to have a name on yours, you can go ahead and just mark that out with a Sharpie, since that doesn't apply. And then you're going to write your name and hour on the side that has the label. So we don't want to do it on the shiny side here. We want to do it on the side that has the label, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and write Miss Gwen. Okay, and then you would put your name on there. Okay, so I have my CD, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make something called warps for my CD. And these are the parts of the loom that we are using for weaving, and we're going to start off with just a plain yarn, and this color of yarn doesn't really matter. We usually kind of start with neutral just because it's easy, but for the most part this will be pretty covered up by the time we get to the end of this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and carefully take my yarn apart here. If you end up with a knot in your yarn and you're having a really hard time getting it out, chances are we can probably kind of just work with it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take my yarn here, and I'm not going to undo the whole entire thing because I have a couple of feet of yarn here. Okay, and so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the end of my yarn, and I'm going to take that. This is going to be my back since it has my name on it. Okay, and the front is what I'm going to be doing the actual weaving on. Okay, now this one here has some lines drawn on this, and this is not important for us. Okay, we can actually just kind of ignore these lines, pretend that they're not here. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yarn, I'm going to push this through the center of the CD like this. Okay, and I'm going to take these two ends right here. Okay, so I have my short end and I have my long end, and I'm going to cross them over like I'm going to tie my shoes. Okay, so you know the first step, you make the X and then you kind of bring your yarn through the loop and it looks like this. Okay, so I'm going to do that one time, and then I'm going to do that same thing again. I'm going to try to keep this as tight as I can here. Okay, and so I'm going to pull this tight, I'm going to loop this around again, and again I'm going to use the short end. It's going to go through that loop to make a knot like this. Okay, now I can go ahead and take my scissors and trim this here just a little bit. I don't want to get too close because sometimes if you get really close and your knot ends up getting pulled, sometimes if it's close enough it might come out. It's kind of weird. Okay, so I have this on the back. On this side I have one loop that you can see with my yarn right here. Okay, I'm going to take the rest of my yarn here, and I'm going to bring this through the middle. So I'm using my finger to press this through. Okay, and I'm going to pull this all the way through here like this. Okay, now I usually like to kind of bunch up part of mine to make it easier to bring this through like this. Okay, so far I have one line going across here with my yarn. Okay, and I'm going to take this here, it's in the center, I'm going to wrap this around. I'm going to go around the back here, and I'm going to use my finger on my right hand. This is the hand that's holding the CD. I'm going to press that yarn up here so I can pull this. Okay, and then I'm going to pull the rest of this through. So usually I kind of like to take the bigger chunk of that and just pull that through like that. Okay, so I have two of these now. I'm going to keep doing these steps until I reach the number 13. Okay, so 13, I don't want 12, I don't want 14, it's got to be it's got to be an odd number. We're going to go with 13. Okay, so I have this here. Okay, and again, it's in the middle already. I'm going to bring this around here. Okay, on the back, it looks like it goes down here. Okay, I'm going to take this finger. This is the finger that I'm using to hold my CD, and I'm going to press this down here. Okay, so from the side view, like this, I press the string through like this. That way I can grab it with my left hand and pull this through. Okay, and then I usually take once I have this pulled through, I take my left hand and I just kind of bring the rest of this through the center. Okay, so just like that. So I have three. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next couple ones here. bring it around, pulling it through, just like this. Okay, and I'm not worried about how they're spaced right now because honestly, once I'm finished and I get everything tied off, I can then move things around. So don't worry if they're not a specific distance apart. We just want to make sure that we're keeping these warps a little on the tighter side. We don't want them to be too loosey-goosey. Okay. So usually in weaving type things, they call that tension. We want to have enough tension. I'm going to bring this through here. Pulling that tight before I go over to my next one. Pulling this tight. Going to my next one. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and check and see where I'm at with this. Now, I always forget. I always get confused whenever I'm counting these, and so I'm going to take the one that I'm holding here, and this is not going to be counted as one. Okay, I'm just going to start counting next to my hand. So by the time I get back around, I'll know, hey, this is the one that I didn't count. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I need about 3 more. I'm going to check that again. So this was the one. This is where my hand is at. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait. I'm not counting this one right here because this is the one that's not finished. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so with this string right here, I don't need to make another loop going this way. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hold this tight. Okay, and I'm using my thumb or my finger on the back to kind of hold this in place. I'm holding this tight right here. Okay, and I'm just going to trim this a little bit here. Okay, so you see the space I'm leaving. I've left a couple of inches here, like this. Okay, and I'm going to take my CD, I'm going to flip it over. I'm still holding on to this, keeping it nice and tight. And you see this string here? You can see where I'm moving it right here. This is the one that doesn't need to go through again. Okay, so I'm going to take this here, just like this. Okay, I've got it pulled tight, and I'm going to slide this underneath a string that's next to it. Okay, so chances are this is like your first string, right? So I'm just going to pull this tight and bring this under here, just kind of sliding this below, down like this. Okay, so it's underneath. And then I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to take my yarn right here. I'm going to go underneath this one. This is the one that I'm tightening in. Okay, and I have this loop right here, and I'm just going to pull this through here. And I'll keep this nice and tight. So I'm going to pull this, and I'm basically tying it to this one right here. Okay, so this is secured. I am going to go ahead and do this a second time just to really make sure it's good and knotted. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go underneath this here. I'm going underneath the string. I'm leaving this loop, and with the tail, I'm going to put this into the loop. So I'm going to move that loop over here so I can pull this through here, and I'm basically tying it around this right here. Okay, so I'm going to leave this tail for now. I'm going to flip this over, and right now, I know it's kind of hard to tell with some of these green lines here, but I am going to go ahead and fix my warps. I'm going to space them out so that they're kind of even. I don't have any that are too close together. Okay, so this is what I have so far. Okay, and this line right here, of course, is that marker. Okay, so I've kind of adjusted these. This is what it looks like on the back. Okay, And then I can trim this because I know that this is nice and secure. So I'm going to trim this down a little bit. Okay, and again, I'm leaving just a little bit of an extra tail. That way, if it gets pulled tighter, it doesn't accidentally slip out, because sometimes they do. Okay, so my first step now is I'm going to start weaving, and I'm going to choose a color. And whenever you pull out this yarn, you're going to take this from the basket, and you'll pull out roughly from one arm all the way across. So say I'm holding this in my hand, this would stretch across my body, and I would hold my arms out almost like I was doing a bear hug. Okay, and you end up with roughly 4 or 5 feet of yarn. Okay, now we are going to be using needles for this, and the needles that we're using are a little bit bigger, and we have a couple of variations of needles. You might have a preference. Some of them are store-bought, some of them are homemade. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to string both of them. So here is a store-bought one. Okay, it's plastic, it's not sharp. It is a little bit, it's bigger than what you might be used to for using needles, but we still want to be careful not to lose these, okay? I also have this piece of plastic right here. It has kind of a pointed end here, and then there's a bigger hole, okay? And both of these work. You might have a preference, you might not have a preference, but again, they both get the job done. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to pull both of these through. Okay, so the first one I'm going to show you is the harder one, which is a smaller one here. So you're going to take your yarn, you're going to find the end here, and instead of trying to take this and pushing this through there, because this is kind of a fuzzy edge, what I actually want to do is I want to pinch this over here like this, and I'm going to make a really small section. Sometimes I kind of twist it a little bit, and I'm going to take this and push this through. Now, this has enough tension that makes it a little bit easier to kind of get through the loop. Pushing this through here carefully. And then whenever I pull this here, I want to pull gently. Okay, sometimes if you pull too hard, you see how those fibers in the yarn were getting a little bit loose. Okay, so sometimes if you pull too hard, you'll just straight up pull those yarn fibers out. Okay, so I'm going to pull this through here like this. Okay, and I'm going to bring this down so that I have a couple inches here, but I still have a really long tail on this side, like this. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and take my yarn here. I'm going to take my loom, these warps, I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to bring this through, this needle through here, okay, under any of these. I'll just start in a random spot. Okay, I'm going to go under one of these here, like this, and then I'm going to pull this through like this here. Okay, so I have my yarn underneath one of these warps back here. Okay, I'm going to pull this through partially, and then I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick little half knot here, right? So this is kind of like you're just tying your shoe, and this is just to kind of secure things as I get going so I don't accidentally pull it all the way through. Okay, and I want to make sure that whenever I tie the knot, I have a smaller tail, so I can use a lot of that yarn that I just cut for the actual pretty part. So I'm just going to secure this here. I'm going to keep it kind of close to that space right here. Okay, I still have, so my yarn is now tied right here, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to press this through here to the front side. Okay, so I'm going to pull all of this through. And then as I'm weaving, I'm going to start with the one that I have. I'm going to go over and under. So I'm going to go, starting on this one, I'm going to go ahead and go under here. So I'm going under this one right here, and I'm going to pull this through like this. And the second one right here, this string right next to it, I'm going to go over that one. Okay, so it's going to go over, but this one is going to go under. Okay, so I can use my needle and my other hand to kind of pinch that yarn, pull this up a little bit. I'm going to bring my needle through here. And then whenever I pull the string through, and whenever you're doing this, you want to be gentle enough. Oops, I just made a silly mistake. I'm going to show you this really quick. Okay, one of the things that I did is I had twisted my needle around. So I accidentally looped around this one instead of going the direction that I needed to. Okay, if you make a mistake like this, you can simply go back the way you came. So I need to take my yarn through here to undo this little, what wants to be not really a knot, but kind of a knot. I'm gonna just take my needle through here. And then whenever I pull this, and again, I'm just pulling gently. There we go. Okay, I just got it twisted around. Okay, so if you look really closely, okay, it goes under this one right here, over this one right here, and then it's under this one. Okay, the second one right here, it's going to go over, and this one here, it's going to go under again. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and do a couple of those steps so you can see how it unfolds. Okay, so I have under, over, under, this one's over, so this one's going under, pulling it through. Okay, and I'm keeping it close to this edge here. Okay, now you can also do a couple at a time. So this one is under, this is going to be over, this one will be under, the second one right here will be over, and this one will be under. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of those. I'm going to pull this through, and I wouldn't do the whole thing at one time with pulling it through, just because it gets kind of messy and sometimes it can get complicated that way. And so I don't want to do a ton, but I can do a couple at a time. Okay, so this one's under, so it's going to go over here, under, over, under. And I'm pulling this through again. Okay, so this one is under, so this one's going to go over right here. I'm getting back to where I started. Okay, this one right here is going to go over, and this one here is going to go under. Okay, I'm going to go over and then under here. I'm going to pull those through. Okay, and the way that this works is that it kind of alternates. It kind of reminds me of a checkerboard pattern. Okay, so if we look up closely to the texture that we have so far on the parts that have doubled up, okay, you can see there we go. You can see how this one here was over, and then the next round, whenever I went around again, it went under. Okay, as it alternates up this work right here, it creates a nice solid piece that I have woven. Okay, this is what makes it more sturdy. Okay, if I only went on one side, it wouldn't look, it wouldn't hold up very well, right? It wouldn't actually do what it needs to do. Okay, now if you are working through here, and so this one's over, this one's under, this one's over, there one, under, over, under, over. I'm going to pull these through here. Okay, and again, I'm just pulling gently, just like this. Okay, now we're going to keep going through these steps. I'm actually going to finish this color out here really quickly, and then I'll be back to show you how we can use this one and how you would start your second color. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I've been working on this and I made a mistake here that I wanted to show you so that if you make the same mistake, it's easy for you to kind of self-diagnose and correct. Okay, so if you look here, I have two rings that are following the exact same pattern, right? So these outer two layers of yarn right here, do you see how they both go over and then they both go under and then they both go over? Okay, so the problem is that I was probably, as I was going through here, I accidentally missed one of my works. Okay, so in order to fix that, honestly, usually what I do is I kind of take my yarn out of my needle just to make it a little bit easier. But what I do is I use my needle here to then kind of pull these out a little bit nice and gently. Okay, so I can pull this here, and this is just lifting it, that way I can pull it nice and easy without having to pick super carefully or accidentally mess things up. So I'm going to go back. So this is still wrong right here because I still have those two together. Okay, so I'm going to pull this. And again, whenever I'm doing this, I'm doing it kind of nice and gently. Okay, and then these two still look off. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this one up. So I'm just undoing a couple of these. Okay, and sometimes this happens. To be really honest, I wanted to show you this, and the reason why I'm showing you this is because I got ahead of myself. I was just like, just going through it, wasn't paying attention, wasn't being careful. Okay, and this is a mistake that literally anybody can make. Okay, so I'm back to where I'm supposed to be. And the way that I know that is because I can see those two layers. So I have this one right here that goes over, and then I can see my yarn again, the warp here. And so I know that my yarn's going underneath, so I've got it right. Okay, so from here, since this is where I was on the right track before I got wrong, I'm actually going to kind of readjust these. If they move a little bit, you can kind of wiggle them back into place. Okay, I'm going to string my yarn. Okay, and I actually am going to go ahead and show you on this one right here. Okay, the nice thing about these is that they are so much easier to string. Like literally, you can just take this through here and push that in. Okay, if you have one that has a smaller opening, you can still do the fold over and slide that through. Okay, and then remember when we pull this through, we never tie a knot on this. We always leave a little tail. Okay, we don't want to tie any knots on here. It doesn't make any sense for us to do that because it makes it really difficult later. Okay, so I'm going to take this one here. Okay, I will say the nice thing about this one in particular is that it has a little bit of a curl to it, so I think that'll be easier as I'm going through these. Okay, so this one was this one was under, so this next one is going to go over here, and this one here will go under. So I can just pull this through. And I goofed a little bit ago, so I'm going to go ahead and double check and make sure I'm on the right track. So if I look closely, it's still doing that alternating thing. It kind of looks like basket weaving a little bit, right? So I have where the texture looks like it's right. Okay, so I'm on the right track again. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go through these here. So that was under, this one's over, this one's under. And I'll just pull that through. Okay, and I'm going to spin it and keep going. Okay, so that was under, over, under, over, under. Okay, double checking I'm still on the right track. Okay, looks good, looks good. Okay, and I will meet you whenever I finish with this purple yarn. I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I'm getting close to the end and I'm at the point where my little tail here is longer than what I have, or about as long as what I have left. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this tail a little smaller here, like this. Okay, and I'm just going to hold this carefully while I kind of finish up this color here. Okay, so again, whenever I'm doing this, I'm not pulling super tight. I want to make this snug enough that it's like a nice hug without being like too loose here and not being, just totally, suffocating or moving it around too much. I don't want too much of a squeeze. Okay, so this one was under, so over, under, and this one's going to go over. And again, I'm going to carefully pull this through. Okay, this one goes over, under, over, under. I'll pull this through here and being super careful. Okay, and I'm much closer to the end. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to take out my string here, and I'm going to go ahead and go get another color of yarn. Okay, so again, you can change up your colors. I'm going to go ahead and grab that really quick. And this is what I have here. I have this bright green that I'm going to use. And so I'm going to find the end here. Okay, and I'm going to take these two pieces together. Now, we can tie them across like this, like you're going to tie your shoes. But I find that's kind of difficult sometimes to keep it quite right. I always feel a little clumsy whenever I do that. But what I prefer to do is I actually prefer to take the two pieces together like this, the two colors here. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these, I'm going to loop this around my two fingers here like this. So it's going to go around. Okay, and then I'm going to cross them over. So whenever I do this, I have a loop right here. So you can see my loop, and then I have the tail. Okay, and this is how it looks so far. Okay, it crosses over, and then this is just going to go below, like through the loop down here. Okay, and then whenever I pull this tight, I'm going to hold these two pieces here, because remember, I want a really small tail. And so I'm going to, as I'm pulling this, I'm going to be careful, and I'm actually going to use this finger to kind of move the knot as close to the edge of these two tails as possible right here. Okay, so I'm going to pull this through this way like this. Here. Okay, and then I'm going to, I've got it super, super close, and I'm going to pull on the tails to make it nice and tight. just like this. Okay, and then I'm going to trim this just a little bit. Remember, we don't want to cut too close, but I am going to trim it just a little over here. Okay, and then we'll pull these here. It's good to go. All right, it looks good. Okay, and then I'm just going to continue on. So now I'm going to take my new string that I have. I'm going to go through, thread my needle, pull this through, and I'm going to keep working. So I still have a couple inches left of my purple, okay, but that will finish out. And I just keep working through the same steps. So it's over, under, over, under. I'm going to pull these through. And remember, we're doing this nice and gently. Okay, I don't want to pull super hard like that. I want to keep it kind of nice and comfortable there. Okay, so over, under, under. Pulling this through. Okay. And we're going to keep going. So that was under. So it's going to go over, under, over. I'm going to go under this one. Here. Pull this through. Okay, so my purple is ended and I've started my green here. What I can do, I have this little knot right here, and what I can actually do is I can kind of take my needle, or I can even use a pencil, and I'm just going to kind of tuck this down behind this purple one right here. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of shimmy this here so that the knot itself isn't quite as obvious, right? You can just see the color change. Okay, and then I'm going to keep moving through. Okay. So I'm on to my green, now my second color, okay, and so I went, so that was under, over, under, and this is what it looks like whenever we start that second color, okay, so it just keeps going around the same thing every single time, so it's over, under here, and again I'm pulling this through just like this, okay. And so I'll keep going through these steps and it'll start to look woven like this one is here. And whenever I run out of color, I'll go through those same steps. I'll get my third color, I'll tie it together to this, I'll finish it out, okay? And I'll keep going until I get to the very edge of my CD, okay? And I can't really fit any more yarn on here, okay? But that is how we do the basic steps of weaving with our CD loom, okay? I think you guys are gonna be awesome. I can't wait to see how they come together.